because you can't take people's trust for granted. When somebody's trusting you with their health, that's an incredible honour.
She is an award-winning pharmacist and community health advocate, recognised as the 2025 National Outstanding Community Pharmacist and Victorian Pharmacist of the Year.
I've always said when you look after each patient one at a time, business will thrive. When you have a vision and you can think and believe in your vision and think of bigger picture, it makes the day-to-day chaos and hardship much easier.
A Stevie R Awards finalist for Woman of the Year in Healthcare, she transforms community health through education, advocacy, and inclusive care for vulnerable populations.
Innovation in pharmacy or healthcare doesn't necessarily have to be about a shiny gadget. It's about having dignified access for patients. I do believe that you can't achieve things on your own. You've got to collaborate, you've got to work together. Every new service that we launch is one more new door that's open for our patients. I think living through war and not knowing whether I was going to survive makes me not take anything for granted. It's so important to have that time for yourself, especially when you're constantly giving to everybody around you. I see the word community in community pharmacy more than I just see pharmacy as a pharmacy business.
Where big dreams meet bold action. Where we share real stories, actionable insights, and the inspiration needed to transform your ideas into businesses. Are you ready to turn your ideas into success and be an inspiration to others? Join Inspirepreneur.
Hello, my name is Sara Murdock. I am a pharmacist and a mother and a community health advocate. I've been in the pharmacy industry for 20 years now. It's been an incredibly rewarding journey, challenging and exciting at the same time. I wanted to be a pharmacist because I love patient care. I love looking after people. I love being helpful. I've always had a strong interest in chemistry. Chemistry, physics and maths were my favourite subjects. But I've also I have this level of empathy where I connect with people. I initially wanted to be an engineer like my dad, but then I did an engineering workshop in Canberra and I thought, no, this is not for me. And then I got into pharmacy and absolutely enjoyed the course, and it has been an incredible journey. I guess I've always been passionate about accessible healthcare and healthcare services because of my background, having grown up in a war-torn country. I was born in Iraq during the Iran-Iraq War, and then the Gulf War happened in the 90s. And so you could say I've lived through two wars. I remember the Gulf War vividly. And then in 1995, my family and I were smuggled out of Iraq. And we arrived in Australia when I had just turned 13. Because we got smuggled out when I was 12, and then we got held hostages for 2 months. Yeah, and then we had to be smuggled out again and ended up in Turkey, where the Australian embassy pretty much looked at our paperwork, who we were, and the fact that we were in danger, and they put us on a plane and brought us to Australia within literally 2 days. Very scary, very sad to leave home, leave everybody you've known, everything you've known and loved. You know, and then coming to Australia, totally different country, different language, and rebuilding yourself. Even at the age of 13, it's very hard. Community pharmacy for me has always been about building a health hub where patients can come for their various health services and making it more accessible with dignity and care. I've always said when you look after each patient one at a time, business will thrive. So provided you're not making people feel like a transaction. So for me, pharmacy has always been about providing that personalised service and care, which puts a lot of pressure on your team and you as a pharmacist to make sure that you're always keeping up to date with your knowledge and studying, because you can't take people's trust for granted. When somebody's trusting you with their health, That's an incredible honor, and you've got to do your absolute best to look after their health. That's where we're all different. So it's about meeting pharmacists who have the same passion for patient care. And then, provided you have the same values, you're able to grow in your knowledge and your skills. You're able to upskill so that you can become a specialist in a specific area. Like since we took over Pascoe Vale 2 years ago, I've seen a huge growth in my team. You know, some of them have discovered the passion for integrative health, and another person has discovered passion for sleep apnea. I've discovered the passion in weight loss, integrative health, and yeah, I love seeing people thrive in this model. It's an incredibly rewarding model when you can be a clinical pharmacist in a community setting. Yeah, it was very hard. You never felt like, well, back then I didn't feel like I belonged we initially came to Sydney, and then from Sydney my dad got a job in Albury, so we moved to Albury. And in Albury, you know, being a small regional town, there's not many people from Iraq or Middle Eastern background. So my parents' home became like what you would call the United Nations. Every time they met someone who's also a refugee or an immigrant, they, you know, invited them over for dinner, and we made friends with them, and they've become lifelong friends. But school was quite difficult because, you know, my parents were very protective as well, coming into a different country with different culture, and me being the eldest, so they were quite strict. And I was also very driven, so education for us was like a lifeline. Yeah, high school was not the easiest time for me. I struggled with friendships, and I found solace in books and the library. I spent a lot of time in the library during recess, lunchtime, and even after school. I read a lot of books because I wanted to be better at speaking and learning English, and that helped. I found comfort in reading stories and learning. I still love learning. My dad always said they can take anything from you, but they can't take your knowledge. A lot of people hold on to what they know, scared that you might steal their idea. And quite often in the past, people have called me naive or simple because I don't protect my knowledge or my ideas, and I will openly speak to people about my ideas or what I know or how you can do things. I love showing people how to do anything and everything that I know. I 100%, and you don't know what doors it will open up. Talking to somebody else in the same room, or when you go to a networking event and you talk about your idea, you know, you may end up collaborating with that person in front of you and doing something absolutely amazing. But holding information or withholding information and keeping things to yourself, I don't think if you can grow with that attitude. Yeah, you can grow a lot faster and a lot better when you can combine incredible minds all together. So what's your intention? What's your intention? Why do you want to share your idea? Why are you speaking to this person? And confidence. So if you're confident in yourself and your ability in what you can do, you do end up being more open to speaking to people. You know, I was in a room full of incredible humans today, and I openly shared my vision for pharmacy and ideas that I want to launch in Australia. And I came out thinking, oh my God, I hadn't thought of that, but I'm so happy that I spoke about it today. Yes. Because it's made me think of how I'm going to launch my next project differently. And I may end up collaborating with that person. I think so, or I hope that the right people always meet. So the right people with the right attitude, you know, I don't feel like we said earlier, you meet people for a reason. People don't cross your path just as an accident. It happens for a reason, and I value people's knowledge and time very much. Never take that for granted. The thought of going to university during high school used to make me get through a difficult day. So if I've had a difficult day at school, or felt like I didn't belong, or felt isolated, or didn't get an invite to a birthday party, or the girls didn't speak to me, the thought of going to university used to get me through a sad day. And this is why now I say to a lot of people I mentor, and young pharmacists or even student pharmacists, when you have a vision and you can think and believe in your vision and think of bigger picture, it makes the day-to-day chaos and hardship much easier, because you have a purpose that you work towards. So that's what it was like for me in high school. I used to be very driven to get high marks, despite the fact that English is my second language, which you can probably tell right now. I've embraced my accent since then. I used to hide the fact that I was from the Middle East and English was my second language, because I was scared of being bullied. I was bullied and also sadly bashed in high school. We laugh about it now, but it did happen. And it used to get me through a difficult day. And then I did a placement at a pharmacy for my 2-week placement in Year 10. And that made me think about pharmacy, but initially I wanted to be a doctor like my aunties and uncles. And then I found myself in pharmacy. I applied and I got in, and the rest is history. I really enjoyed the course. I went to Monash University back in 2000 in Melbourne. So I did study here. I lived in Melbourne for 5 years, and then I went back to Albury and worked in regional New South Wales before coming back to Melbourne 20 years later. Yep, hardship makes you more resilient and makes you more driven to prove that you're not a failure. I think living through war and not knowing whether I was going to survive, or being smuggled out and not knowing whether I was going to be alive tomorrow, also makes me not take anything for granted. I look for opportunities, I seek opportunities. If an opportunity came my way or a challenge came my way, I'm like, okay, that's an opportunity to grow. So obviously we've just had approval for increased scope of practice. That used to be a huge gap, and it still is until we've implemented it properly. The problem we currently have is every state has a different protocol, and I often say, how can every state have a different protocol when if you graduate from New South Wales, you can practice in Victoria? We should have a uniform protocol across board, and I think we will get there. It'll just take time and training. So we are still a few years away, but it's very exciting. I think the pharmacy industry is going through a huge change, and it's a very exciting time. I quite often encourage people to get into pharmacy. It's about to get more and more exciting. Yeah, that's one of the major ones. I'm not against supplements at all, but I think every person is an individual. You need your own individual plan. You can't go off based a social media influencer and go and buy the supplement. A lot of supplements on the market do interact with medications, can affect your liver, your kidneys. So you need to speak to your healthcare professional, and pharmacists are the most accessible healthcare professionals. And quite often you can walk into a pharmacy and speak to a pharmacist and get a quick health check, speak about your goals. Are you getting muscle cramps? Is that why you're looking at supplements and you're looking at supplementing with magnesium? What's your goal? Why do you need the supplement? Are you not getting it from your food? Is it vitamin D? Is your vitamin D low? Do you need to supplement on that? So it's a very individualized thing. I don't think that people should be buying supplements just randomly off the shelves of the supermarket, because there's also varying degrees of good supplements. You know, those that are tested and TGA registered, practitioner lines, for example. A lot of practitioner lines have been heavily tested, and you know that your body can break them down, can absorb them, that you're really getting your money's worth. Or you may buy a supplement that your body can't really break down, can't absorb it. It's going right through you, so why are you wasting your money? And plus, you don't know what you're really getting out of it. It could be an excipient that would give you an allergy, you know. So yeah, I quite often say to people, speak to your healthcare professional, get a medication check or get a health check and go from there. But I am in support of supplements. So that's usually where I start when someone comes in and says, I'm not sleeping well or I'm stressed. I look at what they're taking, or, you know, their magnesium intake, their vitamin D intake. Yeah.
Check
Vitamin D
themselves.
is one of the crucial ones. So your vitamin D will affect your bone health, your mental health, your immunity. So that's a very important one. Iron, obviously, is a big one in women's health, you know. Checking your iron levels. That's something I always encourage, especially when a woman comes to see me and she's tired and exhausted. And magnesium is always number one for me. It's the highest used mineral in the world, and if you can get a good magnesium, it makes a huge difference to your sleep, circadian rhythm, so the quality of sleep, managing stress, and if you train, which I hope a lot of people do, and they do now, like everybody's conscious about their physical health as well as mental health, then magnesium, you can't go wrong with good magnesium. No, I think they help patients, because otherwise you're going to see pharmacies and supermarkets and pharmacies deregulated, and pharmacies require health professionals to run them who are pharmacists, so that patients are well looked after.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So the pharmacy industry in Australia is regulated, and that's for the better of our communities. So they triage you, and this is why pharmacy's increased scope of practice is so important for Australia, because it will take that load from emergency departments and people going there, because pharmacists can then triage, treat if they can, otherwise refer. So it's a very, very exciting thing for Australia. And this is why I'm so passionate about building something where every woman feels like she belongs at the table. Every woman feels empowered to share her vision or to connect with people and to learn and grow. This is one of my, this is something I'm very passionate about, because as a woman, especially as a single mom of 2 kids, I've faced a lot of adversities and I felt like I had to prove myself that I'm capable, despite the fact that my title seems to, be, oh, you're a single mum. And I've had people say that, I've had people say, oh, you would have been great for my pharmacy, but too bad you're a female with young children. And, but that was years ago. I walked out of that meeting thinking, I am capable, and you will see. Not with you, but I will show you one day that I am capable.
Yep.
Innovation in pharmacy or healthcare doesn't necessarily have to be about a shiny gadget. It's about having dignified access for patients, and the right care at the right time in the right place. One thing I'm very excited about is to launch Women in Pharmacy Australia, and the first one will be in Victoria. I'm quite passionate about creating a space for talented women where they feel that they belong at the table and empowered to learn, to connect, and to grow. I'm very, very excited about that. I'm also quite passionate about mentoring young pharmacists and students. They are the future of this industry, and it's our duty to educate them, to inspire them to grow, and not just pass on knowledge, but also teach them to lead with heart. That's very important. And your patients feel that. When you genuinely care, when you genuinely want to connect, and when you genuinely want to help them, people do feel that. To stay connected and to remain curious and to say yes to challenges, because that's what's going to help you grow. And it's very important to remain connected with industry organisations and people, to go to seminars, to go to networking events. It's very, very important. You never know who you meet and what they can teach you. Yeah. And saying yes to challenges in the beginning is very important, because that's how you're going to grow. In time, and when you've spent a long time in the industry, you realise what won't benefit you and benefit your journey, and you can say no. But it's very important to say yes to challenges at the start. Well, it's going to bring women together, and the vision is quite simple. It's just about empowering women to be able to lead. 70 to 80% of our industry is female dominated. And is it dominated or dominant in English?
Dominated.
Dominated, yeah. So 70 to 80% of our industry is female dominated, but leadership or ownership is mainly men. So I'd like to be able to see women take more roles in that platform, be able to be in senior positions, in leadership positions, in ownership, and that's what it'll be about. I know they have women in pharmacy in Western Australia, and they have networking events and breakfast, and it's doing great. And it brings a bunch of intelligent women together, talking and networking, and you feel it every time you go to a space, a networking space, where it's about lifting women, it's about empowering women. You feel the energy. You feel people, you know, like, and you through that you can meet your kind of people as well, with same similar values and similar visions, and collaborate to build, to help you build, either upskill or to get into business. I think there is definitely a need for it. There will be a website, and there will be social media platforms, so through Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and then people can gain access through memberships as well to sign up to newsletters. So that's how we'll, and word of mouth, it's your biggest tool. Yeah. We haven't locked in our launch event yet, but we will, yeah, soon. So Women in Pharmacy is not about being in competition with existing organisations. It's more about collaborating with them so that every woman's voice is heard and accomplishments are celebrated, and we can collaborate to lead together and mentor the next generation. Healthcare in Australia is constantly evolving, and through advocacy, through work that I've been doing and other people are doing in the health field, and government is listening, and changes are in motion. So that definitely gives me hope. The increased scope of practice that's been announced in every state, that gives me hope. Seeing so many young students come out of universities gives me hope. So many things in Australia are giving me hope for the future of pharmacy, and obviously having a regulated industry in terms of retail pharmacy ownerships, that's very important. It's very important it stays in place, because it guarantees people like me to continue to be able to work, and for our communities to have accessible healthcare. Yeah. And this is why our role is very, very important, to inspire and mentor the young ones so that they don't drop out mid-degree, and they continue and graduate from a pharmacy degree and go out in the workforce. So at the moment, I'm advocating for vaccination remuneration to be the same as what doctors receive. Same jab, same pay. I think that's very important, because even with the pay we're getting, we're still doing a lot of vaccines, on-site and off-site vaccinations, but the vaccination rate in Victoria is drastically low, and I know not many doctors are vaccinating in aged care facilities. So because there's just not enough money, they don't get enough money to be doing it, and it's time consuming. So you can imagine how pharmacists feel as well when they're getting half of what doctors get paid. So yeah, that'd be nice to see that change. Another one I often talk about is being or having funding for outreach programs and improving health literacy in the community. Currently, I do that out of my own time and love for the community and improving health literacy in communities, but it'd be nice to have funding for that. So if the health minister was here right now, what I would be advocating for, we need both. And the reason why we need both funding for pharmacists to be able to prescribe and the increased scope of practice, as well as vaccinations, because they will benefit the community. And take a big load off our healthcare system and emergency departments, like you touched on earlier. So disease prevention is very important, and being able to diagnose and improve accessibility to dignified health, improving accessibility to healthcare is very important for communities. Proper training that would be recognised nationwide. Yeah, as opposed to having different protocols in every state. Okay. Yeah, we would definitely need that. It would make it so much easier to be able to practice in different states. Quite often you have pharmacies who are cross borders. So for example, Albury-Wodonga. One is in Victoria and one is in New South Wales, and they're only a few minutes apart. So as a pharmacist, you want to be able to practice in both states with the same protocol. Yeah, no, I think pharmacists have. So recently with recent Advocacy, the government has lowered the PBS copayment to $25 from $31. So that's going to save patients a lot of money. And who knows, in the future there might be more lowered. But we are seeing a lot of that in the community because of increased cost of living. And it's very unfortunate. I have patients that come into the pharmacy who can't afford to pay, but we still give them their tablets and they'll come back and pay when they can afford to pay. And that's fine. I'd rather see someone who takes their medication than not. Yeah, but you'll still end up paying the same thing. Yeah. There is a lot of waste that we see in the industry. So about 500 tonne gets incinerated per year. And this is why 60-day dispensing, when that came out about a couple of years ago, was a very hard pill to swallow because, and we're seeing it quite often now with patients being prescribed medication for the first time and the doctor's writing them a script for 2 months, not knowing if they're going to experience a side effect to it, if it's going to agree to them, if it is going to lower their blood pressure or their cholesterol. So we see a lot of wastage still, unfortunately. I think breathing techniques, I think meditating, whatever works for you as an individual. I always say whatever feels right for you, do it. Even in terms of exercise, find something you love, because then that way you're committed and you're going to allocate time to it. For me personally, what works, and it's something I do for myself, and when I start the day, you know, like I pray and I love to train. I go to Pilates in the morning, and that's something I don't want to compromise on, and I don't compromise on it. When I was renovating the pharmacy, builders like to start at 6 a.m. and I said, sorry, but that's my Pilates class. So I'll either go and open up before my Pilates class, or they will wait till I'm done, because it's so important to have that time for yourself, especially when you're constantly giving to everybody around you. You know, as a mum, I'm giving to my kids. As a team leader, I'm giving to my team. As a pharmacist, I'm giving to my patients. And so I need to have that time for myself. And that's when I do it first thing in the morning, because if I don't do it first thing in the morning, I don't do it for the rest of the day. I'm too exhausted after work, and my kids, you know, need my attention after work, so it's about them, and then it's bedtime and a bit of studying or a bit of work after kids go down. Yeah. Cool. One mandatory reporting I would like to impose on every community pharmacy would be the time spent with the patient. I would like to know on average how much time each pharmacist spends with every single patient that walks through their doors. That would solely vary on it'd be case by case and dependent on what the condition is, why they came into the pharmacy, but it'd be very interesting to report, to look at. Because quite often I feel, especially in Victoria, it's the patient spends more time with the pharmacy assistant than they do with the pharmacist, and that's something I'd like to change. Yeah. And I know pharmacies out there do it, where the pharmacist handles the interaction with the patient from start to finish. And I think that's how pharmacy should be, but not every pharmacy. So it'd be interesting to have a study done. As a healthcare professional who worked during COVID time, what I struggled with is the fact that a lot of information was released on the media before it came down to us in pharmacy. And that was very hard to manage, because managing people's expectations was difficult. Yes. Yeah, patients would walk in expecting to be vaccinated, and we didn't have the vaccines, for example. I remember opening the pharmacy at 8 o'clock in the morning one day, and a patient walked in at 8:10 and said, I'm here to get the vaccine. And I said, we don't have any. And he said, I heard on a current affair last night that you'd have the vaccine. And that turned into the patient being very unhappy and abused me. So I was crying first thing in the morning. It was a very difficult time to work during the pandemic for a healthcare professional. But we've persisted, and I feel like I vaccinated half of New South Wales. We did a lot of vaccines, but it'd be nice to see that change for the next pandemic, if there ever is going to be one. Hopefully not. I don't think we're matching them where they're needed, A. B, I don't think there's been a lot of education around the fact that pharmacists can be clinical pharmacists in community settings. And that's what I do a lot of when I take on students. show them how they can be clinical pharmacists in a community setting. I'm not sure why they report as being unemployed, because for the last 4 weeks I've been trying to recruit and I'm struggling to find pharmacists. Anybody who wants to be a clinical pharmacist in a community setting and has passion for pharmacy and has passion for the industry and patients, please contact me. AI doesn't scare me. AI will enhance that interaction between the pharmacist and the patient, because we can utilize AI to increase patient-pharmacist time. Yeah. So I think if it's used the right way, and it will be, it will enable us to have more time with the patient. So many things a pharmacist doesn't need to do, and that's how we can use AI. As a pharmacist, I'm quite innovative and I like to think outside the box, and I have used AI at times to think outside of the box. So it has actually helped me with a lot of new ideas when it comes to outreach programs. So, and that's what, recently we had a masterclass for our team, and we had an AI speaker present to show pharmacists how they can use AI to benefit themselves at work, and encourages them to, well, it frees your time, how it can free their time to spend more time with the patient. And, you know, a lot of people, not just in the pharmacy industry, but in other industries, are scared of using it, or scared that it would replace them.
Oh, is it?
But I don't believe anything can replace that human connection. I mean, even doctors are using AI so instead of the doctor facing the computer while you are as a patient to the side, and the doctor's not having that eye-to-eye contact with you, they're using an AI platform to record the conversation and document the consult with the patient while the doctor's facing you and giving you their full attention. And same for pharmacists. Well, for me, for example, as a team lead, I wanted to write a policy the other day, and I used AI to do that. That saved me an hour of typing. So I put in AI exactly what I wanted done, and it produced a document for me which I refined, and it cut my time, and you know, the policy was ready in 20 minutes. Global supply chain pressure is affecting us every single day. It's been affecting us for a long time. There's constantly medication shortage and so many things that are out of stock. We manage it quite well in my pharmacy, and I've got an incredible dispensary manager who works on sourcing medications. But how it's affecting our patients is, especially the elderly, when they have to get different brands as a substitution for the brand that they usually get, leads to confusion, leads to medication errors, and a lot of time leads to missed doses as well if you can't get it. Ozempic is a huge one because it's been used for weight loss. Initially it was made for diabetes, and started being used for weight loss, and so diabetic patients missed out because we couldn't get supply. And what we can do to overcome that is save Ozempic purely for patients with diabetes, which is what we've adapted. In Australia right now, we do have a serious problem with medication shortage, and some of the ones that I can think of right now include hormone replacement therapies, patches. So you can imagine a menopausal woman who can't get her patches. It's a problem.
It is.
Yeah, ADHD medications, Concerta, Ritalin, it's a real issue. And things like Trulicity for diabetes. Yeah, it's a big concern. We do have an issue here. Quite often we have to refer patients back to the prescriber to get an alternative.
Yeah.
And that's very difficult because people with a condition like ADHD may have been stabilised on a specific strength or a specific type, and then they've got to get a review and find an alternative or change their dose of what we can get that's available. Look, the way I see the future of pharmacy, you're going to have two arms. You're going to have the service-based model, and that's where you find where my passion is, making sure the pharmacy is a health hub for communities where pharmacists will prescribe, will consult, will spend time with the patient. And the other arm or the other model is a discount model, which has been done quite well by Chemist Warehouse. Yeah. They've done a very good job at that, and I don't think it's risky because as a patient you can make a decision. Do you want to speak to a pharmacist and have a holistic approach to your health? Do you want someone who's got the time to spend with you and educate you about your health, or are you price conscious and you just want to be in and out? So it caters to different people. Yes. Yeah. I think it's good. Small independent pharmacies don't need to compete with Chemist Warehouse. They can either become a Chemist Warehouse or stop trying to be a discount model. And become more of a service-based model. Because trying to compete with a model that's done it really, really well, you're never going to have that buying power. You're never going to be able to buy things the same price they buy them at. So when you're going to be selling your products at a discounted price, it means you can't offer the service because you can't invest in the infrastructure, you can't invest in training your staff, you can't invest in spending time with that patient because you'll be short on staff. So I don't see growth for an independent pharmacy that's trying to replicate a discount model. You buy the medicine from the wholesalers, so you're going to buy it at a certain price, right? Which is the same price that everybody gets it. The difference is Chemist Warehouse has their own wholesaler, so they're buying things for a price that we can't get it. They've done the model very, very well, very smart, and this is why the future of pharmacy is going to be either a service-based model or a discount model, and there's no point of being in between. So if you're trying to be a pharmacy that's replicating Chemist Warehouse, then I don't see a future for that. Yeah, where are we going to get have a wholesaler license and import? We could import from India. Australia is very ready for pharmacists prescribing. Yeah, and it would mean easier access for the patient, immediate care, less load on our emergency departments. Even in terms of what you look at, what we've been doing in Victoria, I've, since taking over the pharmacy in Pascoe Vale, I've hit the ground running with the Victorian pilots in terms of prescribing. And every time I speak to a patient who walks through the door to say, oh, I think I have a UTI, but I can't get into the doctor until next week. And you say, I can possibly help you. Let's take a seat in the consult room and have a conversation and a consultation. And they walk out with a prescription to treat their uncomplicated urinary tract infection. It's a better patient outcome, isn't it? Pharmacist prescribing is not about taking away from the GP or the specialist, because there will be that continuous collaboration and referral pathways, specific protocols when you know you can't treat. But at least then you know it's more serious, and then you refer them to either a GP that can see them today rather than waiting weeks, or you refer them to the hospital or an urgent an urgent medical clinic that they can go to. Because as a patient yourself, you think about it, or a person with a child and you can't get in to see a doctor, then you go to your pharmacist, and if that pharmacist can help you, how good is that for the patient? Yeah, for their families, for the communities, for the elderly person who's come into the pharmacy. I think Australia is very ready for it. Well, the protocols are being decided on now, so there will be an announcement made soon. Okay. And as I touched on earlier, protocols are different state to state, but I see that as becoming I see the future for us in Australia that we would have a uniform protocol for all pharmacists prescribing. I think we're a few years away, but we will get there. I guess it'd be a similar advice to what I said earlier. Stay connected, remain curious, say yes to challenge. Pharmacy is a beautiful profession, but you need to also be in an environment that marries up with your values and surrounded by people that align with your values. And offer you the platform that encourages growth and learning. And I know some pharmacies don't do that, but a lot of pharmacies will. I always say we have a big learning culture.
Yeah.
So when I recruit pharmacists, I always try to make sure that that pharmacist is culture fit and they have the right attitude. Because you can teach someone about a topic, you can teach them to upskill, provided they have the right attitude and they want to learn. When you're hungry for learning and knowledge, then it's easier to teach you than someone who isn't. Say you need a wholesale license, so you need to apply for that. Just being a pharmacist, you can't just sell medication at a wholesale level. And then obviously warehouse, recruiting, looking at procedures. The pharma industry is highly regulated. So I worked in the pharmaceutical industry. I was in charge of drug safety for Australia and New Zealand. And it's a very, very regulated industry. I work closely with the TGA, reporting adverse events and so forth. And very interesting role because you see a different side of the industry. I did patient monitoring programs as well. And yeah, it was very interesting. I really enjoyed that. If I was 25 again and entered the pharmacy world, I probably would want to learn more about the business side of things earlier on in my career. Yeah, so I probably did not have a huge interest back then, but if I was to do it all over again, that's what I would do differently.
Cool.
Yeah, numbers have never been my strength. P&Ls don't excite me as much as patient care and patient interaction. Yes. I definitely lead with heart rather than leading with numbers. And that's why the service model really, really suits me, because I genuinely care about improving each patient that walks through the door. Yeah, I have that genuine care about improving people's health and well-being. And so, you know, and when you are like that, naturally business thrives because people will keep coming back. And but knowing business parameters is very important when you're running a business as well. Luxury skincare products, I think part of it is marketing. They market them well. I do believe some of them work really well. I'm a fan of a few products that are not the cheapest, but they have helped me, and other ones in the same price bracket that haven't. So I think it's about finding what works for you. And you can always talk to your pharmacist and see what they recommend. And some of the most common one I recommend has barely any ingredients and doesn't cost more than $10 for the tub. So, yeah. But with skincare, it's very, very important that people take care of their skin using soap-free products in the shower, whatever it may be, whatever brand it may be, because soap changes the pH of your skin. And so using a soap-free product or sometimes just water and moisturising straight after the shower. I always say moisturise within the first 3 minutes. If you do that every single day, you're going to have beautiful skin, hopefully. Oh. And gut health. There's a direct link between your gut and your skin. There's safe brands that you can use in children. Some of the ones I love are Mustela. I use them on my kids when they were babies. I absolutely love Mustela. QV is a safe go-to. Epiderm. It's a fantastic product as well. And again, not using any soap on the child and moisturising straight after bath time or shower time.
Okay.
Look, the beauty industry is a big industry, you know, like so is weight loss, right? So correct face go routine. But tell me, how much time do we have in a day? Like I know as a busy pharmacist and a single mum, I don't have time to do 10 steps for my face. Like, so I think we've got to be realistic. So my professional advice would be dependent on who I'm speaking to. Am I speaking to a teenager who wants to spend half an hour in the bathroom every morning and half an hour at night? You know, or am I speaking to a busy mum? What's really important is that you're washing your face. You're not using a soap-containing product or a product that contains perfumes. And you're moisturising and you're putting your sunblock. These are this is where I would start from as a pharmacist, and that would be my advice. But if it was a teenager who really wanted to follow those 10 steps, then I'm very envious. I'm quite lazy. You could say I'm quite lazy when it comes to my skincare routine. I just wash, I moisturize, and sometimes I remember to put my sunblock on, but not every day. Very naughty, I know. There is a need, from what I gather and feel, there is a huge need. Victoria's struggling, so a lot of pharmacists, because I interact with a lot of them, and a lot of people that work in pharmacies have lost their souls, and because they've been treated badly. So Chemist Warehouse has done a great model, but they don't pay well. They don't treat people the greatest. Like, you know, pharmacists are just shoved out the back checking scripts. So in time, they lose love for the profession. And so what we do that's different is support every pathway. Like, one thing I'm very proud of is that we've created a culture. We've created a team culture that I'm very proud of. Every pathway is supported, every voice is heard, and every patient is met with heart. Like, every time we have a patient in the pharmacy, they walk away and say, I love coming in here. You guys are all helpful, you're full of knowledge, you spend time with me, they don't feel like they're a transaction. And seeing this really inspired me to build something on a national level, or even, you know, launching in Victoria initially and inspiring other women and other pharmacists to see that pharmacy that I see and that I've built in Pascoe Vale. I think pharmacists have already stepped a foot in their luxury skincare, and we do consult a lot of times around skin health, and again, you know, gut health and what helps your gut. And we see and treat a lot of people with skin conditions. Acne is one of those that I see quite a lot in pharmacy. So yeah, I do believe pharmacists have a purpose in luxury skincare, or even treating skin conditions is what I'd like to call it. I do have friends who are pharmacists who like to compound skin products too, and we have a compounding lab that we compound specific lines that you can't commercially get for specific patients. Yeah, I see a need for us pharmacists to be in that space. I haven't had much experience with patients coming in who have used those products and complained, or haven't had their condition treated with luxury skin brands, but I do see patients who haven't used anything or used the wrong thing from a supermarket quite a fair bit. And those we treat, and quite often I get amazing results with patients just by addressing their gut health as well as using right product on their skin. I don't think people need to spend big money on skincare. I really feel that what you need for your skin is available in the pharmacy. I don't believe that you need to buy these products from a specific cosmetic clinic, for example. But then it also depends on that patient and what their needs are and what they need. And I mean, there's obviously a market for it, and people are buying them. Yeah, and it's a big market from what I understand. I personally, as a pharmacist and as a healthcare professional, so personally what I use is available in the pharmacy, and I found it amazing for my skin after trialing so many different things, including luxury skin products. What I'm using right now for the last couple of years since COVID has been amazing for my skin. I love La Roche-Posay because it's fixed my skin. So I used to suffer from a lot of acne, and I notice now if I stop using it, my skin flares up again. So it's been amazing for my skin. Well, I've recently been honoured to have been named Victorian Pharmacist of the Year by Pharmaceutical Society of Australia. And 2 months later, I was named as the Outstanding Community Pharmacist of the Year by Patients Australia, which is a national award. Incredibly humbling. And I am a finalist in International Pharmacist of the Year. The results come out in November. And the awards are great, and I guess they just affirm that you're on the right path. But the awards, I don't feel like they belong to me. They belong to my patients, my community. They belong to my colleagues who make the work possible. I do believe that you can't achieve things on your own. You've got to collaborate, you've got to work together, you've got to lead with heart and purpose. And my journey has been about resilience and purpose, you know, having grown up in a war-torn country, seen poverty, seen people struggle, being given a second chance at life, surviving being smuggled out and being held a hostage for 2 months. It makes me want to give more and help more people. Well, I've always lived with the belief that the sky is the limit, and I'm quite ambitious and driven and trying to make sure I enjoy the journey and the process. Well, pharmacy ownership is on the cards. It's happening soon, and the launch of Women in Pharmacy Australia. They're the two big things, amongst a few other mini projects that I've got on the go. Kids, more holidays, more speaking engagements, more mentoring.
Okay.
Yep, they'll be exciting 5 years, I think.
Cool.
Innovation isn't just a gadget, it is a new door that's open for our patients. Every new service that we launch is one more new door that's open for our patient. I guess what I've done differently in pharmacy, especially here in Victoria, is put myself out there in the community. So I see the word community in community pharmacy more than I just see pharmacy as a pharmacy business. And I'm curious, innovative, in the sense that I wanted to know what the community needed, and you don't know what they need until you're out there. So knocking on every door, whether it be schools, sporting clubs, different community groups like the Puglia Italian Club or the Neighbourhood House, working together with them in collaboration and addressing those needs in the community. You know, improving health literacy is so important, and building that connection and collaboration with the groups around you, and that's what brings the community in the pharmacy. Making healthcare more accessible. So I launched the first off-site vaccination clinic at the Neighbourhood Health Centre. Introduced new services for the community, whether it be sleep apnea support, weight loss management, vaccination clinics. Renovated the pharmacy to include a consultation room, so to improve dignity and privacy for the patient, and improve the layout of the pharmacy so that the staff enjoy the working space and having better flow and efficiency that allows them to have better contact, communication with that patient. Extended our trading hours so families and patients can access the pharmacy, even those who work and after work. So those are some of the initiatives that I've implemented in the pharmacy. Helped upskill my staff and train in new areas. So some of them weren't vaccinating pharmacists, some of them didn't do any of the prescribing, so now they can all prescribe and help patients. Yep. We've done a fair bit in the last couple of years, but it's been extremely rewarding. So I'm incredibly humbled to have recently been named as Victorian Pharmacist of the Year by the Pharmaceutical Society of Australia. And that was a very special moment for me because I was awarded at Cossa Hall, Monash University, exactly where I graduated from 20 years ago. So being back there was surreal. I never imagined back then that I would be back at Cossa Hall, Monash University, receiving such an incredible award. And then 2 months later, I was awarded as the Outstanding Community Pharmacist of the Year, National Award by Patients Australia. And that was a beautiful night. And recently I have been told that I'm a finalist for International Pharmacist of the Year, and the announcement to come out in November. These awards are incredible and extremely humbling, and I guess they affirm that you're on the right path, but I don't feel that they belong to me. They belong to my patients, to my community, and to my colleagues who make these things possible. You know, I'm incredibly proud of my team who show up every single day believing in the vision and serve with heart and purpose and are there for the community.